take care of my son, who has become paralyzed for the rest of your life. I received a call at work informing me that my husband had been in an accident. Reluctantly, I left for the hospital, and upon seeing me, my mother-in-law immediately said those words. Fortunately, he was not in life-threatening condition. Sighing deeply, I faced my mother-in-law, who seemed to think it was only natural for me, his wife, to take care of him. It's his own fault. Besides, I have nothing to do with him anymore. I firmly refused my mother-in-law's offer and told her that I would be leaving him. How could you abandon my son after an accident, you worthless daughter-in-law? I'm not his wife anymore, you know. What? Not only are you heartless, but you're going to lie as well? Don't make things up just because you don't want to take care of him. My mother-in-law, in her excitement, kept calling me a demon and a devil in a harsh tone. Feeling it was futile to say anything more to her, I turned around and attempted to leave the treatment room. However, my mother-in-law grabbed my arm tightly and, while crying, stared at me, asking, Are you planning to abandon my son? No matter what she said, my feelings did not change, and being there was painful for me, so I shook her off her arm and left the hospital. Upon arriving home, I immediately began packing my belongings into cardboard boxes to prepare for moving. I firmly decided to move on and live a happy life with my beloved daughter. Despite numerous calls from my mother-in-law, I did not answer the phone and spent my days ignoring them. However, the messages she left on the answering machine were always the same. Don't say you're leaving. Please help my son. Thinking it was wrong to give her false hope, I deliberately did not call her back. Hoping that our connection would naturally come to an end, I rented an apartment and moved 2 weeks after my husband was hospitalized. Gradually, the contacts from my mother-in-law decreased and finally stopped altogether. 3 weeks later, as I was getting used to my new life and regaining peace, my husband called me. At first, I ignored it, but as he kept calling without leaving any messages, I decided it was better to clearly convey my feelings and pressed the call button. We were supposed to be separated. What do you want now?
That's the first thing you'd say to me? Well, never mind. Just come and pay the hospital bills.
I replied that I had no obligation to do so, but he refused to listen to my side. However, I was not willing to back down, and as I was about to hang up, he ominously said,
Are you okay with this turning into trouble for you? I'm canceling the divorce.
What are you talking about?
I never intended to divorce in the first place. You're the one who insisted on filing for divorce. I'll petition the family court for mediation.
In fact, we had submitted a divorce application before my ex-husband's accident with mutual consent. A handwriting analysis will quickly reveal that you wrote it yourself. In response, he even claimed that I had coerced him into writing it. Moreover, he had not informed his mother that we had officially separated, and the thought of causing her more sadness pained me.
Mom is devastated because you won't even answer the phone. She says she wants to die every day.
My husband bombarded me with such statements. Hearing this, I felt compelled to visit his hospital room. However, my mother-in-law was not there, having gone home to rest. There, I received the hospital bill from him, which listed an astonishing amount. $5,300? What's that about?
It was a self-inflicted accident, so insurance doesn't cover it. Just pay it for now. I'll pay you back later.
Despite how high the amount was, I believed his words and paid the hospital fees. When I brought the receipt to my ex-husband, the cold stares from those around me pierced through me. Patients in the same room accused me of being a terrible wife for not taking care of my husband, calling me a heartless demon. My ex-husband had told the nurses that I was a terrible wife who left her husband, who became paralyzed from the accident and went home, which led them to treat me coldly. Feeling uncomfortable and wanting to leave, a nurse came to take his temperature. Unexpectedly, my ex-husband blurted out something surprising.
My wife has finally reflected on her actions and has decided to start taking care of me from today.
I had no such intention, and as I tried to explain that, my ex-husband suddenly pulled me closer by the arm he could move and whispered in my ear.
Listen, if you make a scene here, I'll make the divorce invalid. Don't you dare tell my mother.
I only came here to pay the hospital bills. I refuse to take care of you.
Your opinion doesn't matter. People tend to side with the weak. If you want to live separately with our child, you'll have to take care of me for a while.
After whispering this to me, he made a sad face, and while rubbing his immobile arm, loudly asked if I would not abandon him, ensuring everyone in the room could hear. Wanting a peaceful separation, I had no choice but to comply. If he made up stories and separated me from my daughter, I would regret it for the rest of my life. From that day, I reluctantly began visiting the hospital to care for my ex-husband, Jeff. While I sympathized with his condition, I honestly had no feelings beyond that. Having been tormented by Jeff numerous times, I was filled with the desire for him to truly reflect on his actions. For 20 years as husband and wife, this man has done so many terrible things to me. After about a week of caring for Jeff, I noticed something odd. I was the only one visiting his room for care. There was no sign of his mother. When I asked him about it, he would change the subject, saying it must be hard for her to see him like this. I thought to myself, but doesn't she care about her son's condition at all? Suspecting he was hiding something, I unlocked his smartphone with his fingerprint while he was asleep and discovered secrets he was keeping from me. Observing his behavior further, I uncovered even more shocking truths. I thought to myself, it's unforgivable for him to use me for his convenience. There was only one way for me to escape this situation: to expose Jeff's actions and true character. Carefully gathering evidence, I resolved to thoroughly bring him down. A week later, his mother suddenly came to visit Jeff.
Hey, why did you come without contacting me?
My ex-husband panicked upon seeing his mother. Despite his claims that his mother did not want to visit, his reaction was suspicious. As I frowned and turned towards my ex-husband, sweat poured from his forehead.
I told Mom that my wife would take care of me, so she should just relax at home. That's all I wanted to say.
His words trailed off into a mumble, and I couldn't understand what he was saying. As I told your mother before, I'm not your wife anymore, right? My mother-in-law looked at me in surprise. Huh? Was that not a joke? Seeing my serious expression, she became flustered. I then pulled out my smartphone and showed them a photo. Jeff, who is this woman?
Huh? Where did you get that?
I transferred it from your smartphone. We divorced because you cheated on me with this woman. Haven't you told your mother yet? My ex-husband fell silent, fidgeting with his fingers. You probably didn't let your mother visit to keep her from finding out about your affair, right? You never know where the story might leak. As I pressed him, he flustered and tried to snatch the smartphone. But I stopped him and handed it to his mother instead. She was so shocked that her eyes nearly popped out as she scrolled through the photos one after another. The images of Jeff and his affair partner cuddling were unmistakably those of lovers. Moreover, this is the second time you've cheated. I thought about staying married to you for another 4 years until our daughter becomes an adult, but I've reached my limit of tolerance.
But to do it this way? It's cowardly.
You're one to talk? After we divorced, you went on a drive date with your affair partner and got into an accident. Indeed, when I entered the treatment room where Jeff was taken after the accident, I saw her lying on a bed a short distance away. Seeing them both, I felt unbearable and left the place immediately. At that time, his mother was quite shaken upon hearing her son had become paralyzed, so I thought it best not to give her any more shocks and kept silent. She had no idea the woman in the same treatment room was her son's affair partner. My son has caused you so much pain, Courtney. I'm sorry for getting the wrong idea and saying those terrible things to you. After looking at the photos for a while, his mother looked at me and apologized with a guilty expression. But ultimately, Jeff is to blame. He caused the car accident because he was distracted, cuddling with his affair partner while driving. Moreover, he crashed into a traffic light because he couldn't navigate a curve properly.
Who told you that story?
It was written in the messages between you and the woman you were with. Did you think finding just the photos would satisfy me? The affair partner, who had been discharged from the hospital earlier, had been exchanging various messages with Jeff about the accident. As I read out their contents in front of Jeff, he murmured in a low voice,
Please give me a break,
and looked down. There's still so much I haven't said to you. The woman who was supposed to care for you decided to break up with you, right? Eventually, the affair partner blocked Jeff on Messenger and refused his calls, leaving him unable to contact her at all. You want to cancel our divorce because you want someone to take care of you, right?
But I can't do anything on my own.
Strange. You seem quite capable of moving. I started playing a video I had secretly taken while caring for him. It showed Jeff effortlessly picking up a smartphone he dropped on the floor after I left the room. Jeff! What are you doing lying like this? My mother-in-law's face turned red with anger, as if steam were about to come out of her head. Jeff fumbled for an excuse, muttering,
Well,
with his mouth moving but saying nothing. I spoke up in his place. You want to live a comfortable life without working, right? Pretending to be unable to move, deceiving everyone around you, and relying on my income to support you. Isn't that it?
on what basis are you saying such things?
I didn't spend 20 years as your wife for nothing. I see right through you. This is goodbye, Jeff. After saying that, I quickly left the room. Jeff must have been quite panicked because he suddenly stood up and walked after me to chase me. Although I knew he could move, his swift action surprised me. Stunned, he grabbed my arm firmly. I can't believe you lied to this extent. Let go of me now. While shaking off Jeff's hand, I sighed deeply and he looked awkwardly silent, unable to make a sound. Anger boiled inside me as I glared at Jeff. I won't listen to your excuses. Not only did you cheat, but you've also been neglecting me for the past 3 years, haven't you? It's all on you.
It's your fault for not being attractive enough to keep me.
It's your defiant attitude that I can't stand. Do you have any idea how much you've hurt me by coming home late at night reeking of different women's perfume without a word of conversation at home? Jeff cheated on me 3 years ago for the first time. Since then, I've been treated like a maid, sleeping in the same room but living in a state of rejection. As he said,
a 48-year-old woman like you is no longer a woman.
Later, he had an affair with a woman 20 years younger than him, who was with him during the accident. Shocked, I could hardly eat or sleep. My daughter, noticing my deteriorating condition day by day, gently told me, Mommy, if it's too hard for you, it's okay to get a divorce. For the first time, I discussed our situation in front of my mother-in-law. She turned to Jeff and said, Jeff, if you ever trouble Courtney again, I won't forgive you.
Why won't anyone take my side?
You brought this upon yourself, you fool. From now on, you're on your own. After giving Jeff a cold stare, she placed a gentle hand on my shoulder and said, Do what you feel is right, Courtney. If you ever need advice, I'm here for you. Encouraged, unexpectedly, I thanked my mother-in-law, then turned to Jeff and announced that I had already moved out with our daughter, Katie. As promised, I'll divide the proceeds from the sale of the house and require you to pay $20,000 in compensation for your affair.
Can we talk about that?
No. Oh, and don't forget to reimburse me for the hospital bills I covered and the $24,000 in child support for Katie until she turns 20. Jeff's expression immediately turned frantic, and although he sought help from his mother, she firmly said, I'm cutting ties with you.
Courtney, actually, I was driving with a suspended license, and my car insurance had expired. I didn't renew it, and now I'm being billed $28,000 for damaging a traffic light.
Faced with this unexpected confession, I exchanged looks with my mother-in-law, but I felt no pity for him. No matter how much you plead, my mind is made up. Don't ever call me again. As I was about to leave the hospital room, my daughter rushed in. Jeff immediately walked over to her.
Katie, you don't want us to divorce, right? It's better if Mommy and Daddy stay together, isn't it?
I hate you for constantly cheating and making Mommy suffer.
You came here worried about me, right?
Of course not. I came because Mommy was late. Are you okay, Mommy? Did he bother you? While Katie looked at me with concern, Jeff must have not expected such a cold rejection from his own daughter. He collapsed to the ground in a pitiful state. The other patients in the room, having witnessed the entire ordeal, apologized to me one after another, saying,
I'm sorry, we misunderstood.
And then I noticed a nurse standing at the entrance of the room who also apologized and said,
I'm sorry for making you feel unwelcome without knowing the whole story.
No, I was deceived by him too. We've caused you trouble, and for that we apologize. We'll be leaving now.
Don't leave me, please.
Goodbye forever. Leaving Jeff crying in the hospital, my daughter, my mother-in-law, and I left. After his discharge, Jeff sold the house and paid the $20,000 in compensation for the affair, the $50,000 in property division, the $5,300 I fronted for his hospital bills, and the promised $24,000 in child support for Katie, leaving him almost penniless. With the fines for driving without a license and the cost of the damaged traffic light, his future looks difficult. I also claimed $20,000 in damages from the woman he cheated with and received payment promptly. Now, Katie and I are enjoying our life anew. She aspires to become a lawyer and is dedicated to her studies, and I'm fully supporting her dream.